بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. The Tarteel program announces its 7th session wherein we will practice and recite Surah Nasr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The first verse, in the first word إِذَا. Again, some of us, we have a problem with that letter, the dhal. So we have to practice إِذَا with the tongue a little protruding. إِذَا. Thereafter, the next word will be pulled for an extent. جَاءَ. The third word, نَصْرُ. You have to be careful here, not to say nasru. It's not a seen. It's not a simple S sound, but an emphatic or a full mouth S sound. Nels, not nas. And in doing so, we have to try to practice to make sure that the noon doesn't become full. We don't say nos, but na. Nels. After that, you have Nasrullahi wal Fath. By the end of the verse, we have to make sure that it's not a small H sound which we stop with. It's a coarse or a heavy H sound, the ha. So it's wal fath and not wal fath or simply wal fath. Rather, the coarse H sound has to be there in the end. Wal fath, wal fath, wal fath. So again, there are several things to concentrate in this verse. إِذَا, the dhal. جَاءَ, the prolonging. Nels, the sad. And wal fath, the ha. Also, the word Allah will be recited with a full mouth. Now to recite the verse. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ. In the next verse, وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ. The word النَّاسِ will have the غُنَّة, the sound from the nose, from the nasal passage. The next word, يَدْخُلُونَ. The dal will have a slight echo, the qalqala, yad. Not too much that it sounds like a zabar or a fatha. So we shouldn't say yadakhulun, but yadkhuluna. Thereafter, fi dinillahi. In this place, the word Allah will be empty mouth. So you won't say fi dinillahi, but empty fi dinillahi. And the rule for the word Allah, it's passed several times, so we're going to explain the rule for the first time, is that when the word Allah has a zabar or pesh, meaning a fatha or a dhamma before it, it will be pronounced emphatic or full mouth. But if it has a zair or a kasra before it, then it will be pronounced empty mouth. As you've seen in the first verse, Nasrullah, the word Allah has a pesh before it or a dhamma. Whereas here, Dinillah, the word Allah has a kasra or a zair before it. Hence you have the difference in the sounds. I just want you to observe once. If you look at the first verse once again, listen to the sound. Nasrullahi. And here, Dinillahi. So you can understand the difference between the sounds of the full mouth and the empty mouth. Finally, the last word, afwaja, is very simple, but the fa will have a little bit of breath and sound flowing, just a bit. So you won't say afwaja, but afwaja. Now to recite the verse. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. The final verse, فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ. You have to be careful to pronounce the two has appropriately, the coarse, heavy H sound. رَبِّكَ wastaghfir. In this word, you have the sin and the ghain. You don't come to a complete stop saying wastaghfir, but a little bit of the sound will flow. Wastaghfir. If you didn't understand that, that's a little bit detailed, it's fine. It's a simple word. Just make sure that the ghain is pronounced properly. So we don't say wastag, but wastagh. And also, by the end of the word, we have to pronounce a slight H sound, the ha sound. We don't stop at the ra, simply saying wastaghfir, but wastaghfir. A little breath should come out after the ra. So we're pronouncing the ha. So it's wastaghfir and not wastaghfir, but fir. Wastaghfir. Wastaghfir. Finally, innahu, the gunna of inna, and the hu will be prolonged one alif. Innahu kana tawwaba. Now to recite the verse. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to recite properly, to learn it and implement it into our lives, and to convey the message, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.